Sheldon Primus.
Welcome to the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus, where we blend safety smarts with business brilliance and a pinch of Sheldon's signature wit. Whether you're a safety pro, a fresh-faced consultant, or just safety curious, get ready for a show that'll educate, entertain, and elevate your safety game. Let's dive into the art of consulting with your safety Sherpa himself, Sheldon Primus.
This episode is powered by Safety FM.
Wow, we've got ourselves a show this week, gang. I am extremely happy. Welcome back, all you guys that are listening. And if you're listening for the first time, just go ahead and welcome. There we go. I'm glad to hear you all and see you all. And that's me seeing you in my brain. And I have a guest today. Mr. Chris McGlynn from Roco Rescue. And I always want to say Rocco and Ruku, and I'm botching your company's name, brother. It's welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to see you again. I know we've been trying to play phone tag. We're playing interview phone tag.
Years now, probably at this point. Right?
No kidding. So tell everyone about your company. You can even tell them how we met, and maybe they'll surprise everybody. So go ahead and I'll let you open. I love having the guests talk about themselves because it makes them so nervous.
Yeah, so I'm with Roco Rescue. We do a lot of rope rescue, confined space rescue, for those of you that know what that is. But basically, if it's involves rescue, we probably do it. We offer the training as well as the standby services, medical services, training services, safety services, and even sell some equipment for rescue folks. So pretty exciting business to be in. Very unique.
Sounds it.
Very unique. And
What
being the
area?
director of safety for such a weird organization is pretty cool too. So we're based out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This is our 42nd year in business, so we've been around a while. We predate the confined space regulation. How about that?
Really? I actually didn't know that you guys were that. I thought you started it after with the emergency rescue that you're doing. So it's actually been in business longer than that.
Yeah, 42 years. So been around a while.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So go ahead. I'm sorry. You see, every time I talk to you, you get my mind going, and I am like, what?
Yeah.
I got to ask him about this. I got to ask him about that.
Yeah. We been around a while, but Sheldon and I met. I took a COSS class, and Sheldon was my instructor. And since then, I've taken numerous courses with Sheldon, all enjoyable. And we've put a lot of our people through it as well, and they always enjoy having Sheldon. Not blowing smoke here. Yeah, Sheldon's entertaining, engaging, and very knowledgeable too. So we always enjoyed seeing your name up on the instructor list.
Oh, no, that's awesome. And just had Brandon a little while ago, and Hunter, and
Yep.
man,
Yep.
you guys when you're all together, it is so awesome to see the camaraderie and how you guys relate to each other, and just the tomfoolery.
Oh yeah, we have a good time, but serious about our work too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And Rope Rescue is the primary, or at least what got started the company, or was there something else that got it started back in the day?
yes, I guess back in the day, it was some Louisiana state troopers and some firefighters that got together and said, hey, let's start training people on how to do rope rescue, because there really wasn't much training out there. And so they got together, started doing training, mostly training municipalities in other fire departments and stuff to do this. And unfortunately, if you want to have a successful business, there has to be revenue involved, right? You do have to support the program. And
at some time.
Unfortunately, a lot of municipalities just aren't very well funded. But industrial facilities are. And so Roco eventually made the shift into the industrial world. And it shouldn't be a surprise that there's a little more cash flow in the industrial world than there is in the municipal world. So we still train emergency responders, and municipal responders. large fire departments, but most of our business is through industrial. So training large energy generation facilities and petrochem facilities, refineries, you name it, we probably train their rescue teams. And then, of course, we offer our own rescue teams for smaller facilities that just don't have the manpower to do their own rescue teams on site. We'll send personnel to
Oh,
go cover their projects. So.
yeah, that's great because I, since my field is utility wastewater in particular, when I first got started in wastewater, honestly, my confined space entry training was, young man, you see roaches, you go in. You don't see roaches, you don't go in. That was my full confined space entry training. And for many years, if I'm then going into a situation with a confined space, especially when I was just not knowing anything else, all I would be doing is literally looking for roaches. I see roaches, all right, we're good. But what kind of concentration of gas is in there? The roach isn't going to tell me that.
No, and they're a little more resilient than we are,
Yeah, no kidding. That
Yeah.
was my full training. And I remember one time, like years later, when I was actually a plant manager at a wastewater facility, I was going out to what they call a package plant, which is one of those smaller plants that you might see in maybe a mobile home park or something like that. They have the small wastewater plants that are just contained to their units. So I go there and I'm checking this plant out. It was outside of, if you guys know Publix in Florida, that was right next to one of those public grocery stores. And I go to the lift station and I open up the lid and white roaches come out, like pure white. And they're running out to the sunlight. And I'm like, uh-oh, the roaches aren't going in. The roaches are coming out. Normally, when you open up a manhole, roaches go down towards the dark, but these roaches are getting out of Dodge and they're white. So I'm like, what is going on? So I had to go into the store and I smell stripping, the acid that they use to strip the floors and wax it. So I smell that, and that was the same smell of the lift station. And sure enough, they dumped the contents
Oh
of that stuff
no.
right into the lift station and killed my plant and kind of harmed some roaches, but they were fine after a while. They just changed colors. They're like albino roaches now.
Albino roaches. There you go.
So that I guess there's some truth to. You see roaches go in, you don't see them, don't go in.
It's the old canary
But
thing, right? You let the canary down there, and if it lives, well, maybe it's okay.
yeah, absolutely. So not to get everybody, especially if you're eating breakfast right now. Sorry, my bad. but but rescue and some of the things that you mentioned right there in the beginning is, the actual fire departments of local fire departments may not have the money and the resources to do rescue. So a lot of people, when I tell them in my training for utilities, I'm there and I'm telling these guys, hey, what's your rescue plan? And they're like, oh, we'll call 911. All right. So I said, does 911 have an actual trained program in your area? And here's another consideration. How do they know, or how do you know that they're available when you need them? What's the plan? And I
Yeah.
give them those questions, and they're like, So is that what you guys are experiencing in some cases where people have such a reliance on 911, they don't know that not every fire department or rescue or I should even say they have a rescue part. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, and it's weird. There's some really good departments out there that are very well trained and funded and equipped and capable of performing a rescue, but you also have the exact opposite end of the spectrum where they're just not trained, not equipped, and rarely available. And what their response time is. It may be a volunteer service, so somebody has to get off of work, go get the truck, or whatever however they operate, right?
Yeah.
But you would also think that, oh, this is a large department, a big municipality, so they're trained, but that doesn't always correlate. And on the flip side, just because they're a small department doesn't mean they're not trained. So really, you
Hmm.
have to just establish that relationship by picking up the phone or go and visit and see what their capabilities are, and if they're willing to work with you, because they do have to be capable and available to respond. So if you're relying on them as your
Okay.
rescue plan and they have to go to a large structure fire or something that uses all of their resources, well, you just lost your
Yeah, there
rescue
you go.
plan.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And there's
you
so
know, and
many places. Oh, no, go ahead. Finish up, and then I had a thought. Go ahead.
I spent 12 years as a paramedic before I got into safety. I don't know if you knew that, Sheldon. uh,
Yeah, I remember that.
I, throughout my paramedic career and even during my training, I never heard the words confined space. And so, it's crazy is if we would have been called to, oh, somebody's down inside of this pit, or a lift station or something, well, we would have just gone in and got them. I had no clue. We weren't
Wow.
trained on that, So, with the new emergency response standard that OSHA's kind of looking at redrafting, the fire brigade standard that they want to redraft into emergency response, one of the requirements is that all emergency responders may have to take confined space awareness training, which I think is great.
Yeah. Man, I look at you with the deep dive, actually going in and seeing the standard. Well, usually for those of you listening, the U.S. has what's called a unified agenda. So the regulatory agenda is what they plan for the next coming years, and there's a cycle for how U.S. Gets laws in, and generally for regulatory OSHA laws, you could plan on a good 8 years generally, but there's a whole bunch of stuff happening during that time period, and that gets housed in a thing called preambles. But this ruling that Chris just mentioned has been, they've been working on it probably a good 3 years. So I'm expecting that you're gonna start seeing some more on just that part where the emergency management side, they need some assistance, and regulatory assistance is probably the only way they're going to get it, because not too many people put more money into their emergency services unless they have to. And that's what I've seen. I don't know if you've seen that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention to the audience earlier, and gang, forgive me for this, but Chris is not only is he, of just rescue superhero, but he is involved with all kinds of volunteer stuff with ASSP and the VPPPA,
There you
and
go.
that's the Voluntary Protection Program, something association. What's the other P?
Yeah. So, VPP is an OSHA program.
Yes.
And so it's the government, right? And so they, OSHA is like the one sector of the government that doesn't get to benefit from bloat like some of the other organizations do.
Yeah, no
Um,
kidding.
and so VPPPA, the Voluntary Protection Program Participants Association, blah, 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 blah,
There
blah,
you go.
is kind of the nonprofit that helps to promote VPP and helps to get people involved. Or maybe you're a work site that wants to become VPP, you don't know where to start. You reach out to VPP PPA and they can hook you up with people that can help you on your journey to becoming a VPP work site. So I'm
And
on the Region 6 Board of Directors for that, which OSHA just changed their regions.
I know I'm getting so confused with that.
So, but the Region 6 for VPPPA aligned with the old Region 6 of OSHA. So Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, New Mexico.
Okay.
So
And you're also a special government employee as well, right?
correct. Yep. So that's another voluntary thing that I do as a OSHA special government employee. So help OSHA during those on-site evaluations of either current VPP sites that are renewing or prospective VPP sites that want to become VPP, doing the initial evaluation of those sites. And it's a deep dive. Learn a lot though, because you get to
Yeah.
see behind the curtains of some really cool organizations. Like NASA is a VPP site, Boeing is a VPP site. So you get to see behind the curtains and see how things work and how they create their safety culture. And you can learn a lot and take that back to your work site. So we're all about sharing those things.
No, man.
So
That's great. And you've got your master's in occupational safety. You're a PhD candidate, so I'm going to have to call you doctor soon.
no, please don't. Yeah, working on my
And
PhD right now through West Virginia University, the Statler College of Engineering.
Ooh,
So
nice.
yeah,
And
so
you are one of those rare people that are not only a certified safety professional, but you also has your certificate occupational safety specialist. Excuse me. Are you
yeah,
COSM as well?
no, I need to take that class. My course is actually up for renewal. I just got the email a couple days ago, so I need to, go log in and take care of that. But yeah, CSP and
Oh, take
costs,
the
and
COSM.
yeah, I need to do it. We'll do that next year. I'll commit.
Yeah, well, I was telling you, if you take the COSM, you automatically get well,
Oh, the
you have
cost
enough
renewal.
stuff to get your renewals, so you'll have everything else that because you've got all the volunteer stuff that's out there. Literally, you you volunteer for everything. You're in the Z17 117 confined space standard. You got the Z390 for
Yep.
hydrogen sulfide. So you got all the points that you need.
Yeah. Secretary of the Region 4 ASSP board. I'm on the Greater Baton Rouge chapter board. I volunteer a lot.
Volunteer a lot, which is good. What drives that? What drives your want to see our business expand and to give your own time, energy, and effort to do that? What's your driving factor there?
So I guess the primary thing is, and I'm sure you know this, and you probably explain this to people, but getting into safety is kind of tough. You may have a degree and all of this, but you really either have to know the right people or just get incredibly fortunate to break into safety. Now, once you're there, the reins are yours. But I got my degree in safety. I was a paramedic looking to get into something that I could do long term because working on an ambulance, even 12 years, was about 11 years too many. Um, so
Mhm.
so I interviewed and interviewed and interviewed, and they were like, "Man, you seem like a great person. You're pretty knowledgeable, but you don't have any experience." It's like, "Well, great. I was hoping you would give me some, but I guess not." And so I
No
came to
kidding.
Roco and used that emergency response experience to get into the industrial experience. So one of my side quests is that anybody that wants to be a safety professional should not have to do that alone. They should be able to have help along the way. And VPPPA and ASSP allows me a great avenue to help other people to get into safety and to help them in their journey to becoming, safety professionals. So, which was what inspired me to do the PhD because I'd like to get involved at the university level to to teach and help mentor aspiring safety professionals and help them on their journey. So that's my side quest, which really that's what fuels all of these volunteer things. Now, something I realized pretty quick is that while it's voluntary, I don't get paid for this. The amount that I put in, the return is like threefold. You will always get more out of it than you put into it, which is pretty cool. Uh, but the satisfaction that you get, the reward, I guess, that you feel from
Yeah.
helping people and volunteering is just it's great. So, and I'm
So
very
you're
fortunate
getting
to be able to do it.
yeah. And you do it very well. I mean, from all things that I've been seeing, and even the posts and stuff that on LinkedIn, and seeing all the stuff after, and I am familiar with that area too. So I do know some people that are actually in your area, and they're telling me, oh yeah, Roka did this and they did that, and they're like, oh yeah, Chris is on it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm everywhere, man.
And everywhere. It's ridiculous. So I had before I get into some technical questions, tell me about your the way that you've been helping advance the organization, because a lot of the listeners, they're solopreneurs, and they're starting their consultancy, and they're trying to figure out how to market and how to keep clients and make new clients and all that stuff. Any tips that you guys have for growing a business and taking on marketing concerns? What tips can you give some of these solopreneurs out there?
Yeah, so the biggest thing I can tell you is networking is pretty much everything. There's tons of other things you can do, but networking is super important. Um, I'm trying to think of how they word the phrase that I've heard is the opposite of networking is not working. I think is how they word that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like
So
that. That's a
So
T-shirt. Can't they put that in a T-shirt or something?
yeah. That there was a professor at Southeastern University, which is in Louisiana. They have a safety management program, and one of the professors there says that to his students. So he encourages them to get involved with ASSP because that's a great place to network. What better
Yeah.
place to network than a place comprised of safety professionals?
Yep.
So that's a great place to start. You're going to meet client facilities that may hire you. You're going to meet other professionals that may not have the same skill set and expertise that you have. And once you have that network, if they run into a problem, they're like, I know Sheldon. Sheldon probably has the answer to my question. And so you're going to pick up the phone and call Sheldon because you've met with him. So I always say networking. So if you can go to conferences and network with people, especially in the evening social events that people go to, don't drink too much, but
No kidding.
lots of great networking there. And then get involved with things like ASSP or other organizations like AIHA for the industrial hygiene folks. That's another great place. But anywhere that you can meet and network, you're going to get your name out there, and then you can represent your brand there as well. So it's networking is incredibly strong. And then social media, obviously, if you're not tapping into social media, that's you're leaving a lot on the table.
Yeah. What about your? Have you got into the foray of AI and using that to help you with some of your postings of blogs, and maybe even getting you to help you with some of the keywords that you should enter into stuff and SEO, search engine optimization stuff? Are you using AI for any of that yet?
Oh, definitely. One of the quotes I heard a while back from somebody said, "If you don't learn to work with AI, it's going to learn to work without you." So
Ooh, that's another one.
yeah, man,
Goodness,
full of little nuggets, huh?
that is awesome.
Uh,
You got
but
a t-shirt factory right there.
you have to be mindful of the way you use AI though. So you can't just say, "Hey AI, write a blog article for me on confined space ventilation," because while it may come up with some good things, it tends to hallucinate a little bit, and it's just going to ramble and make up things that just really aren't true. So I rather, when I use AI, is one of two ways. If I'm not sure where to start, hey, can you provide me an outline for guidance on a blog article? And then it'll say, hit these 4 points. Great. Then I fill in the blanks with my knowledge and expertise. The other side is maybe I just write something that I want to write about. Then I'll post that into AI and say, can you make it more concise? Or can you make it easier to understand? Or can you jazz it up a little bit for me? And then
Ah,
take that, and then don't just use that though. You have to comb through it, and because sometimes it'll hallucinate and it'll change your words on you, and it puts things that just are objectively false. So
yes.
it is a valuable
I like the
tool
way you
if you
say
use
that.
it correctly. So
I like the way you say that, where it hallucinates. That is so just key, because I remember when I first started, like last year or a little before OpenAI with ChatGPT. My nephew was telling me about it, and he was telling me all the uses that he had, and he was just really like telling me about it. And I was like, well, I already have a AI generation type thing where I could use it for voiceover work or use it for something else. And honestly, he's like, oh no, it's more than that. So when I really started getting into it, I was like, oh wait, he's right. This is different. This is something that we could really use. So I try to test it out, and then I tested it out with a simple question asking about OSHA's jurisdiction, and it told me maritime. It told me agriculture. No, it told me maritime, general industry, and construction. And I was like, oh, it's missing one. It did not have anything to do with ag at all. And I had to prompt the thing to see if it could finally tell me about the 1928 standard, is what I had to put in there. Tell me about the CFR 29 CFR 1928. And then it started spitting out the right thing. But before that, if I didn't know anything, I would have been, writing a blog post about OSHA's 3 jurisdictions, you know.
yep, yeah. Something else I use it for, and I'm sure you might be kind of familiar with this, but if you do you write blogs and stuff, but
I do.
so you'll know that the title is almost everything to get somebody to click on it, right? So if you have just 3 tips about 1910 146, well, I'm going to probably scroll past that. But if you
Yeah.
come up with a creative title, people might be inclined to click on it. And so when I write a blog, sometimes I'll inject the whole thing into ChatGPT and say, can you come up with a catchy name that makes people compelled to click on this? And now it'll spit out some ridiculous things, but every now and then you'll get one that's like, that's it. That's the one I'm going to use. And because I'm not very creative, so especially when it comes to those types of catchy titles, but every now and then it can be useful for that. So,
I
and like you were
actually
saying,
do
for
that
the
too with
SEO stuff,
titles.
yep.
And I also asked it for a second title, so I could do what they call the A/B split, where you could try one title and then see if basically the system itself, your email system, will send out just a portion of the emails, one with one title, one with the other, and then which one gets the most openings, then they'll send the rest of the emails out with that one. So it's called the A/B split. So that's what I usually do. I say, give me a A/B split of this title, and so it'll give me two titles. I'll try them both, and the system will then send out, I believe it's like 25% of the emails first, and they'll wait to see which one gets an more open rate. So whichever title wins, then the other 75% is going to go with that new title. So there's a tip. Ta-da.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm new into marketing. We do a little bit of marketing with Roco, and that's a really good tip. We're gonna have to look into that. I wrote it down.
There you go.
So
Yeah, I'm doing a secret project for EHS and just learning how to coexist with AI, but more than that, use it as the tool it should be used. So that's more to come. Dun, dun,
more to
dun.
come. That's a cliffhanger there.
Cliffhanger. There you go.
Right. Tune in next week.
Tune in next week. Yes. Hey, did I just get you to disclose that your most recent article on LinkedIn about the four hazards of confined space, ventilation, it was AI assisted?
I'm not going to say that AI was not used in some fashion in that, but most of that is my brainchild. It, where that one really helped actually in particular is there's some analogies in there that I help to explain it better. So that's one thing I really like about it is I'll tell it, hey, here's information, but I want a seventh grader to understand this. I find that's the best level because if you go too young, then it
Yeah,
gets
dumbs it
like you're
down.
talking to a kid. Yeah, but if you write something that's at like the bachelor's degree level, like it's going to go over most people's heads. So you have to really dumb it down to that. And it's sad to say it, but like middle school age, and
Yeah.
it makes it more easy to digest, especially with like nuanced information. And confined space can get a little dense sometimes. So um, in particular, the one thing that AI helped me out with in that article is I talk about bending of the ventilation ductwork. And the analogy it gave me was, have you ever tried to suck a milkshake through a crazy straw? And you can know
Uh,
it's difficult because of all the bends. So man, that's a perfect analogy for the airflow. And
yeah,
so there
that's
you
a
go.
great analogy. Yeah, no one's going to do the friction loss calculation, so might as well tell them that analogy.
Yeah, yeah, just because now it intuitively makes sense. So
Hmm.
that's where I find AI is really helpful. Is just little things like that. If you try to let it do all of your work for you, it's not going to end well.
Yeah, I wonder if you could do something like, here's my anchor point, or at least I need to do an anchor point for this rescue, and I don't have a direct way to anchor, and here is the dimensions of this building, and see if you could figure something out, or I don't know if it could be that advanced yet because you have to give it so much details.
Yeah, I mean, so I was just at a National Safety Council in Orlando, and uh, there was a booth there, and I cannot remember the name of the company, but they have this new AI product that they're working on basically, and you can upload a picture to it, and it will tell you any OSHA citations that go along with it. Like for instance, the
Ooh.
example they showed was a breaker panel that wasn't labeled, and so they just took a picture of the breaker panel, and it immediately was like, oh, 1910 XYZ breakers aren't labeled.
Wow.
And so, is it going to be perfect for every application? Probably not, but that's pretty promising. So along that lines is maybe eventually you'll be able to take a picture and it tells you, oh, these are acceptable places to anchor your rope rescue system.
Yeah, that'd be awesome because, honestly, you're still going to have to check. And if you're trying to re-rate down to 3,800, then you're going to truly need to have that qualified person like the standard tells you. But at least it could, help you think things out a little and then open up your eyes to things you may not have even thought about. What about like AI talk again? I when I interviewed Alan Woodford a few weeks ago, he told me that there was an AI model where they asked. It was basically some sort of, how with when you're hanging a suspended scaffold, you have to really make sure that the rope doesn't get cut by abrasion and everything. So the AI was basically helping them troubleshoot what to do, and it basically said use pool noodles, and you have X amount of time to use pool noodles. And then they tried it; it worked. And now instead of buying more expensive equipment, they just buy a whole stack of pool noodles, and they know that they have X amount of uses, and they just go ahead and use that. And it was all AI, thinking it through.
Man, wait till Granger starts selling those for.
They're gonna slap their name on it and
Oh
jack up
yeah,
the price.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy
industrial
though.
commandos.
Are you familiar with Matt Hollowell? Has that
No,
name?
no.
All right, so he's out of Colorado. He's PhD. He developed an AI, and it's continually developing, but he patented it so nobody can start charging money for it. He wants it to remain free and open source. But it's Chat GPT, but it's safety focused. So you can ask it questions like that, and it will give you recommendations and suggestions and whatnot.
Oh, I'll look him up. Hollowment?
Hollowell,
Hollowell.
yeah, he created, I guess, or really pushed the concept of the energy wheel. You may have heard, or the hazard wheel.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
there's a lot of companies, Intergy, the utility company, they really push this stuff. But Dr. Matt Hollowell, he's out of Colorado. Um, he's the
Excellent.
Construction Research Alliance. He also heads that too. So does a lot of safety research, and he's creating an AI.
CPWR? He does CPWR?
No, it's oh man.
All right. I'm going to look that up, gang. See, all you guys listening to us nerd out. This is what happens when I talk to Chris.
Construction Safety Research Alliance, CSRA.
CSRA. So you guys are all hearing it at the same time I am. We're going to just don't bog down the internet until I finish checking it. Well, I
Yeah,
had the benefit of hearing it first and then I post it later. So I'm going to be checking this stuff out.
yeah, they do a lot of good stuff. Of course, it's construction focused, but he's also working a lot on AI as well. So pretty interesting stuff. I check them
Oh,
out.
man. Yeah. It's coming. It's here. We just have
Yeah,
to make sure that we could utilize it for our industry because we truly could use all the help we could get when it comes to life saving decisions, right?
yeah, absolutely.
All right, and here's my other technical question. Remember in class years ago, and we were talking about fall protection, and I mentioned suspension trauma, and you were like, hold on. There is a
Yeah,
myth between our understanding of suspension trauma and what it really is, or at least there's more technology or technological aspects to what we think of orthostatic shock or suspension trauma. So break it down as much as you can. I know it gets truly technical, but what is the misunderstanding, if you would, that we've been hearing in a lot of our fall protection classes?
yeah. So there's a lot of I guess misconceptions with suspension trauma, and this will be a bit of a soapbox moment, I guess. So buckle
Go
up.
for it.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. So one of the big things is we don't understand a lot of it because doing research on it it's hard to do it ethically. So we can't just put somebody in a harness, suspend them by the dorsal ring, and see what happens, right? Because we may have some pretty bad consequences. So
Yeah.
there have been some recent studies that have been done and published, 2019 ish. where they did try to simulate that, but they have to have health parameters. So, for instance, if the heart rate increases by 10%, then we shut the study down. Well, just me standing up and walking to the refrigerator, my heart rate may increase by 10%. So the parameters are so narrow to keep it safe that it's hard to really conduct an ethical study to see what happens. But some of the things they found that may not be entirely true, that you may have heard, like the toxic blood thing. Have you heard that, like,
Yes.
yeah, so that
Yeah.
may not be entirely true, and the studies are kind of leaning towards it's not entirely true. Now, look, over a very, very, very long extended period of time, sure, that can happen, but when we're talking you're
Yeah.
hanging for 20 minutes or something, it's probably not going to set in. So
Hmm.
that's one of the things. The other thing you may have heard is like, oh, well, don't lay them down after you get them down, because the blood's going to rush back to their heart and it's going to explode. And like that was
Yeah.
a
Give them
thing
a
that was,
cardiac arrest.
yeah. So that's also kind of been somewhat debunked. Uh, so there's a lot of misconceptions out there about that stuff, and a lot of it revolves around the thing that we can't really do studies on it ethically, because we can't just hang people on a rope and see what happens. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. No kidding.
so the good news is, though, is that by trying to treat these people and manage it in the way that we have been, we're not really hurting anything. So it's really no harm, no foul,
Hmm.
right? If we do think that all of these things exist and we try to put them in a certain position to prevent it, we're not hurting anything. So that's the good
Yeah.
news, right? The other thing is that fall protection equipment manufacturers understand that suspension trauma is a thing, and so we're developing equipment that's now better equipped to keep you from developing that whole suspension trauma thing, right? We have more training that focuses on suspension trauma. We know that if we keep the legs moving, that we're a lot less likely to develop it. So I guess if you want to back up a second, I'm sure many people have heard of the soldier that's standing at attention, right? And they lock their
Yeah.
knees and then they pass out,
Yes.
right? So that's the same mechanism that leads us to the suspension trauma thing. The difference here is that the soldier passes out, he becomes horizontal, or she becomes horizontal, and then the blood kind of redistributes, the brain gets oxygen again, and then they wake up, right? They just reboot the computer essentially. With
Yeah.
suspension trauma, we never get in that self-righting position because you're hanging, right? When you pass out, you don't get to go horizontal and redistribute the blood and get that oxygen back to your brain. And so now we spiral out of control. The reason that you pass out, the heart is really good at pumping blood around, hopefully 24/7, 365, right? It doesn't take a break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Unfortunately, gravity kind of limits what the heart can do to get the blood from the lower extremities back to the heart. And so we rely on these little one-way check valves in our veins and the contractions of our leg muscles to help push that blood back up to the heart. So that's why we tell you
Hmm.
bicycle your legs or push your legs against a structure, because we need the leg muscle contractions to help get that blood back to the heart so we can get it back to the brain and so on and so forth, right?
Ah.
So when you pass
Everyone just
out,
says it's for not clotting. Is that also an additional benefit for bicycling the legs and pushing off to something?
sure, that's another thing that's kind of been somewhat debunked too, is the whole blood clot thing. So that blood would have to stay pooled there for an incredibly long time for it to start clotting, if you will. Um, it's not to say that it can't
Hmm.
happen,
Yeah.
but where a lot of this stuff came from was there's a mountain climbing summit in like 1968, 1970 or something. And these doctors just said, oh, this is what killed these people. And then that information wasn't challenged for decades. And now we're starting to have studies on it because it's become a focus in the industry. And we're starting to find out that not everything they said was 100% true. You know, it's not to say that it was all false, but we're starting to understand that not everything was exactly true. So the good news is,
Hmm.
again, that we're not hurting anything by heeding that information. So um,
Hmm.
yeah, so
That is awesome.
yeah, so those leg muscle contractions are super important to keeping us awake. The danger really becomes when we pass out, we can't move our leg muscles anymore, right? Because we're passed out. And so now we're passed out, our head slumps over, our airway kind of gets cut off, we don't breathe as well, and we can't maintain the leg muscle contractions, so the blood just pools. And And that's when we have a life-threatening situation on our hand. As long as you're able to move your legs, you're really going to do a lot to prevent it from occurring.
Wow. So, give us a cheat sheet for those of us who teach fall protection class, and we always have to add rescue. If you're not adding rescue in your fall protection class, you're not doing a good job. So, what's the cheat sheet that we should say for rescue? Because honestly, most people are anywhere between 5 minutes to 10 minutes. The person needs to get some rescue, and make sure that you're. I've heard some people say you want to lay them down, like you mentioned, and then you physically move their legs up and down. So I've heard that. But then I've also heard some people say you can't lay them down yet, because if you do, then it's going to end up having a blood clot go straight into their heart, and then they're going to get some sort of cardiac arrest or something similar. So give us a cheat sheet as to what do you think us that have to do at least a little component of fall protection rescue, especially if you're doing an OSHA 10 or OSHA 30, you got to add that in. So give us a cheat sheet.
Cool. So, safety nerds like us love hierarchies, right? We all love hierarchies. So at Roco,
Love
we
them.
preach the hierarchy of rescue, or fall protection rescue, if you will. So self-rescue is always the preferred method. Hey, Sheldon, you fell, climb back up on your own. And that's great. If that works, it's simple, it's effective, and I don't have to put anybody else at risk. The second method is assisted rescue. So I can throw down a ladder for you to climb up. I can toss down a rope and maybe you pull yourself up. I can get a man lift or a ladder and come up to you and help you down. We're assisting
Yeah.
you through a non-technical means. Then we'll move into, if that doesn't work or it's not feasible, the next is to use like a pre-engineered rescue system. So not like a plug for any company, but there's a lot on the market. DBI, Rogueless, MSA makes one. They all make their own pre-engineered rescue system. You hang it up, you click it to them, you pull them up. They make it very easy, minimal training required. They're super effective.
Oh, yeah.
Then the next is the most technical, is putting a guy on a rope, sending him over and going to a rescue, full-blown technical rescue, like what our company or many other companies would provide. And that's the least preferred method, because now we're exposing another person, to a tremendous fall hazard. So, but sometimes
Yeah.
that's the only option, right? So the hierarchy of fall protection rescue. And then as far as the treatment guidelines, for anybody that's medical out there, you may have heard supportive care, or ABCs. So airway, breathing, circulation. If their airway's closed, open their airway. If they're not breathing, breathe for them. And if they don't have circulation, CPR time, pump and make their heart work. If they're bleeding, we're going to control the bleeding. If they have a broken arm, we're going to support the broken arm. As 12 years as a paramedic, I never heard the words suspension trauma. If you told me this guy fell and he has suspension trauma, I would have had no clue what you were talking about. My wife's a registered nurse. She worked in the emergency room for many years. Guess what? Never heard of the word suspension trauma. And we can carry that on. I have an uncle that's a doctor. I know many doctors. They don't know what suspension trauma is. And that's okay,
Oh,
because we're going to treat them based on whatever's going on. So again, if they're bleeding, we're going to stop the bleeding. When they get to the hospital, they're going to run blood work. And if the blood values are out of whack, they're going to do what they do to fix it. They're going to do a CT scan. If you have internal damage, you'll go to surgery. So we don't treat suspension trauma. We treat whatever's going on with you. And just as a layperson, or just a first aid responder in a facility, treat what you see. If they're bleeding, stop the bleeding. And as far as position wise, right now, the buzzword is put them in the W position, which is sitting on the ground with your
W.
knees up to your chest.
And the hand down versus the
Yeah,
throat.
I guess it doesn't look like a W to me, but that's what they call it. We just say put them whatever's comfortable. If they want to lay down, great, lay them down. If they want to sit in a chair, sit them in a chair. The last thing you want to do is keep them standing upright and motionless, though, because that's what got them into trouble. So encourage them to sit down or lay down, whatever they want to do. You're really not going to hurt. There's no position that's going to really mess with them. So, but disclaimer, follow your organization's medical guidance. So if you have a medical director on staff, do whatever they tell you should be doing.
All right. So if there's a medical director, follow them first. And
Yep.
then if not, then go ahead
Yeah.
and take the tips that you just gave us.
Yeah. There's a lot of conflicting information, but the good news is there's not a whole lot that you're going to do to help or hurt them. I mean, of course, if we have spinal trauma or something, then that's a whole nother thing. But as far as suspension trauma goes, yeah, just treat what's going on with them, make them comfortable, and let them know that help's on the way. And everyone should be evaluated at a hospital with a physician if they do fall and they're suspended for some amount of time.
Very, very good. And I'm glad we got that one out because honestly, I would have just kicked myself if I got to ask you that question. Uh, Now, the other question, technical, and for me, I'm the confined space guy. I usually deal with that class when I'm teaching the utilities because I've been in a lot of confined spaces from actual lift stations into clarifiers and digesters and pipes and all kinds of stuff. So, and that's most of them were full air too, with the self-contained breathing apparatus on my back. That's younger me. Older me teaches.
Yeah.
So help me out with teaching, or at least informing some people who have to do confined space classes. And again, we have to put in confined space rescue. And I don't even know if you guys do trenching rescue, because I do trenching and excavation classes, and trenching rescue is like ridiculous things you got to think about for soil displacements and goodness, I can imagine all the kinds of knots but
Yeah.
that kind of rescue is like really, really bad. So if you do, you choke your head. For those of you that can't see, that they do trenching. So tell us about those two type of rescues: confined space, trenching, excavation. Since they have similar hazards, I know you can't call trenching a confined space technically because of OSHA's definitions, but they have similar hazards, and that's what I tell everybody. So, what's your tips on that?
I mean, we could talk for the next week or two if you'd like, but I guess specifically so yes, we do offer a trench rescue class. We don't do a lot. We do 4 or 5 a year. And what's funny is it cannot rain for a month straight. The day we start a trench class and we make an excavation to get into, it pours down rain. It never
Oh wow!
fails. Never. So if Louisiana's in a drought, we just have to teach a trench class and we'll solve
There
that
you go.
problem. Uh, yeah, I've never actually had a chance to take our trench rescue course. I've been around like a day or two of it, but I'm always busy. I never get a chance to dedicate to just sit in the class, but a lot of fun. They collapse the trench to show you what that looks like, and then they put up shielding and shoring and all of that. So pretty cool.
No.
Yeah, and with any kind of rescue, we go over that same hierarchy. So self-rescue, hey Sheldon, you're not feeling well in a confined space, get out. And then you just walk out. And then great, rescue complete. Then our next method would be a non-entry rescue. So if you have a harness on with a lifeline, then I just attach to your lifeline and pull you out. We don't have to make entry, but we're still getting you out, right? Or maybe you're on a davit arm with a winch. We just winch you up.
Yeah, even better.
Um, and so, not making entry is very preferred. So, but sometimes we have to get in, and then that's always our last resort, is that we just go in and we do rescue, package you up and get you out. However, we have to move you, manually moving you or using rope rescue systems with mechanical advantage or whatever we have to do. Right. And then sometimes we're on air because of the atmosphere. So,
Yeah. And then you got to think about your sulfide exposure, and then sulfides being water soluble. If you start stirring that up,
displacing
and then
them.
all of a sudden you've got some more sulfides. You're like, hold on, there wasn't sulfides when I did my initial detection, and now there's sulfides. What's going on?
Yeah, yeah. We always monitor the atmosphere separately. So even if the people doing work are doing their own atmospheric monitoring, we're going to verify the atmosphere prior to entry. And then the other thing we always do is, if you're wearing one level of PPE, we try to exceed that by another. So if you're using just cartridge respirators, we're probably going to go on air, just as an additional safety factor.
Yeah. and your 5-minute escape pack and all that,
Sure.
which
Yep.
is what, 3 minutes?
Yeah. Some people suck them down pretty quick, but
Yeah,
hopefully we don't need the escape pack. I mean, we do have them, obviously.
yeah,
So yeah, we use the SCBAs like you would see the firefighters wear with the tank on your back. But
yeah.
then we also have SAR, supplied air. So we'll have tanks outside, and we just bring a hose in with us, which is a little easier to navigate. But then you have hose management. You know, if you've got 2 or 3 people, those hoses can start tangling up really quick. So
Yeah, yeah.
give and
And
take
you're
to
like,
both.
hold on, get off his hose. You're stepping on his hose.
Yeah. Yeah, because people walk in circles. They just, I don't know why they feel compelled to walk in a circle, and it just tangles everything up. So,
Ugh, wow. Hey, what are you guys doing for yourselves? Like, I know for your career in medical, and my family is it's someone in my family is always in some sort of medical. But what do you guys do for yourselves to make sure that you don't burn out and that you guys are gonna be mindful of if one of your rescue teams maybe uh, emotionally in distress and things like that? Do you guys have like a whole system in place to make sure that you're okay before you could help someone else?
yeah, that's a good question. So I guess disclosure is at Roco, we don't, at least on our standby team, we don't do a lot of rescues because we're so proactive. If we see something that's like, hey guys, this is gonna cause something bad to happen, and we may have to do a rescue, our guys are gonna shut it down before it gets to that. The best rescue is the one that never happens, right? Um, However, we do occasionally do rescues a couple times a year throughout, nationwide. It happens. Yeah, and we just have to check on our guys afterwards, debrief, and make sure they're okay. It's funny you bring that up. So my PhD is occupational safety and health is the program. The thing that I'm researching though is because I was a paramedic and because burnout was such a huge thing and mental health issues in emergency responders is pretty bad. That's actually what I'm focusing on is occupational stressors in paramedics and why they're experiencing so much burnout and suicide and depression and alcohol substance abuse and
Yeah,
because I've known a lot of people personally that took their lives and the suicide rates in emergency responders is so much higher than the general population. So that's something I'm kind of intrigued by, and that's what I'll be researching for the next 2-3 years.
wow. Now that is such a weighty topic, and I'm glad that you're going to be doing it. We need a dissertation on this because there's now you have ISO 45003 to make everyone aware of a management principle in place to keep an eye out for people who may be going through a psychological safety event. And then also you've got Cal OSHA, which talk about workplace violence, and a portion of workplace violence is, some of the workers are truly dealing with microaggressions and stuff like that, and they do turn in, and more than microaggressions, sometimes it's physical assaults and then other things. So they turn inward, and the company now has some ownership to that, especially in Cal OSHA. So I know that it's a topic that we are just now starting to see, and the pandemic really pushed us to seeing that even more. So that's a great dissertation. Goodness. Um, well, you told me that some people in your circle actually committed suicide, so that seems like a driver for you to get an understanding for this.
Yep, definitely. And a lot of it revolves around the stigma of it. It's especially years ago, it was predominantly men that worked in this industry, and construction's very similar, right? It's a predominantly male uh, field, right? And so if you say I'm depressed or that last emergency we ran made me feel some kind of way, well, you're just weak. You can't handle it. Go work somewhere else. And so if you did want to speak up, that's the resistance you met. So that made you reluctant to do it. And guess what? You just swallowed and buried that emotion down. Now multiply that by the hundreds of calls you ran like that, where a child
Yeah,
died or whatever, and yeah, after a few years, it takes a toll on you, and people just don't know how to deal with it, so they turn to substance abuse, they turn to alcohol, or even worse, they just end it altogether. So curious to find out what I'm gonna what we're gonna turn up, but so far
Yeah, that's
it's been pretty
great.
good. So just scratching the surface right now. I just started in August, so only a couple months here in on the program here, but already pretty interesting. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and I commend you. And just that is a weighty topic, but it is necessary. It is necessary. So when you get through your fellowship and you get the PhD on your name, and that data comes out, I am going to be spreading it on every social media I got. Yeah, I'm going to have you come back and make you talk to the audience again about that, because that's important.
yeah.
So tell everybody first, congratulations on your occupational safety professional by Columbia Southern University in 2023. I forgot to mention that one.
Safety professional of the year.
Congrats.
Yeah. Thank you.
Safety Professional of the Year. That was just outstanding. And I am so grateful that I get to know you. And hold on, let's give you an official applause.
Thank you.
So tell everybody how to reach you. Roco, look at that. I did it again, didn't I? I literally did. Bad Sheldon.
You are
Bad
among
Sheldon.
many, 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 many people that, we got an email the other day at our info line. This guy was very upset that his Roku TV started malfunctioning after a month or two. So he reached out to Roco about his Roku TV, and he was sure to let us know his feelings on that TV. So we get that quite often too.
Did you tell somebody, we'll send somebody out to you?
Yeah, sorry about your TV, but we're not the people you're looking for. We can't rescue this one. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Well, tell everybody how to reach you. Tell them just anything you got, and I'm going to mute myself and let you go nuts.
No. I mean, I'm all over LinkedIn, so just find me on there, Chris McGlynn, or you can email me, CMcGlynn, that's CMCGLYNN at Roco, that's ROCO rescue.com. Hit me up there. That's emailing me is almost like text messaging me. I'm very responsive there, so please don't sign me up for any weird newsletters or anything. But if you got a question or you want to reach out, hey, feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to help you. Or if you just want to chat, more than happy to do that as well. So, follow me on LinkedIn. Follow Roco on LinkedIn if you'd like. And you can visit our website at rocorescue.com too if you want more information on that.
All right, Chris McGlynn, everybody. The man.
This is fun, man. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, I want to. I mean, this is one of those things that we should not only do that. I think you guys got a podcast in you, especially if you split it up amongst all of you.
Yeah, we used to, but we'd like to revive it. It's just I got to find time to make it happen. But for the time being, I'll come jump on yours.
There you go. You're welcome. Well, thank you so much for joining the program. And I know it's been a long time coming, so I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you got it, man.
That's a wrap for today's safety show. Remember, safety isn't just about hard hats and caution signs. It's about business smarts too. Thanks for joining us on the Safety Consultant Show with Sheldon Primus. Until next time, stay safe, stay savvy, and keep consulting like a boss. Go get 'em. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast or broadcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the company. Examples of analysis discussed within the past hour, only examples. It should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based only on very limited and dated open source information. Assumptions made within this analysis are not reflective of the positions of the company. No part of this podcast or broadcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast or broadcast, Sheldon Primus.
This episode has been powered by Safety FM.